Small water project vital for rural areas. Northern Province leaders urged to put aside differences. And Port Moresby grabs national softball title.
This is National EMTV News with Mary Bartolo.
Hello and welcome. This is Sunday's news. Thank you for joining us. A senior correctional service officer says building small water projects for rural areas is easier than eyeing huge projects. Director for Rural Lockups, Superintendent Renson Tiki, said this after attending the 8th Pacific Water Expo in Port Moresby. Superintendent Tiki said water is becoming scarce and a struggle for rural lockups.
After noting the need for a sustainable water supply, Superintendent Renson Tiki said building environmentally friendly and cost-saving projects is vital. He attended the 8th Pacific Water and Waste Management Conference and Expo and was thrilled with the solar-generated water system.
On display on some product long here, especially on solar system long water on using. And one good improve technology now using.
He says the government is focused on major provincial correctional institutes, but rural lockups is as important as it is community focused to curb crime and lawlessness.
Water cut outside and costing people money. This cost cutting issue. We look at one good we make an own now. Can ask them. And one it's applicable long area block me where me walk long.
Water PNG Chief Executive Rakatavri Jr. says PNG must preserve and be more wise when using water, as many mining activities are polluting our waterways.
Our waters are no longer safe. So the days when the rivers were flowing freely and now people were once fetching from the rivers is no longer the same. Our rivers are now polluted with a lot of extractive industry.
The 8th Pacific Water and Waste Management Conference and Expo ended on a high note with Pacific State ministers signing a communique to table water problems in the next Pacific Island Forum. Jekla Pave, Junior National EMTV News.
Opposition leader Don Pollier has called on young leaders of Papua New Guinea not to deviate from true principles of good governance set by the founding fathers of this nation. Pollier said if Christian principles are overlooked, mismanagement and corruption will cripple the country. He made these remarks in Dagua, ECB province, days after the country celebrated its 40 years of independence.
The opposition leader flew into Dagua LLG in East Sepik province yesterday and thanked East Sepik people in raising Sir Michael Somare for his leadership, who led the country into independence. Pollier told those who gathered the next generation of leaders must be God-fearing. He said PNG's destiny was established on Christian principles but has not been upheld by successive governments.
God principle of loving, of serving and loving unselfishly, ungreedily. Want them care, want them strong to conviction. Aims to make him a nation become a strong nation.
Despite receiving 1/3 of his DSIP funds, Mr. Pollier presented 10,000 each to the local high school, health center and 5,000 to the women's group. Pollier says institutions like courts and police must never be weakened because they are also priority areas.
But today, I'm a decision where the leaders of tomorrow must make.
He called on PNG's young leaders to avoid bad practices and hold on to good governance to save this country into the next 40 years.
We're crossing over from a last 4 decades to a new decade of 40 years. So people make him good, but you need to look in all the real meaningful development.
Jekla Pave, Junior National EMTV News.
Our crews have been to some of the most remote places in the country for the country's 40th independence celebrations. Fabian Hakalitz was in Northern Province and returned with this story.
"40 years of Papua New Guinea's independence was celebrated in the Oro-Kaiva color and style. I was fortunate to visit 3 locations on September 16 just to experience and observe rural and urban area celebrations. In the morning, it began at Kiru Primary School. located between the mountainous rugged terrain between Moresby and Central Province. Although very remote, the school still organized a get-together for students to commemorate the country's 40 years. Sayo was the next stop, where Soya MP Delilah Gore also officiated. 40 years since PNG gained its independence in 1975 is a great achievement, but also there are still many challenges ahead. Soya MP Delilah Gore, on her 40th anniversary message at Sayo in Soya district, has challenged the people to look at the future. But the national government still has much to do in order to bring the vital services to the people of this nation. Independence is a time of reflection. People must unite and harness the future.
All kind of people, you and I, must think, where will my destiny be in the next 40 years? That's where we must look forward to our future, the next 40 years, that you and I will go through.
Forefathers of this country also pay tribute for bringing the country this far.
They worked hard to give us independence. Today we are 40 years old.
Our final destination was at the Independence Oval in Papandeta town. Varieties of activities were staged to commemorate PNG's 40th independence anniversary. Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News. We'll have more when we return. Welcome back to the news. Sohe MP Delilah Gore has called on all leaders of Northern Province to put their differences aside and work together for the common good. Again, Fabian Hakelitz with this story.
For the first time, these people came in numbers and celebrated Independence Day. The local MP took this opportunity and pointed out pressing issues that have affected service delivery in Northern Province. A major hindrance is differences between political leaders that have caused divisions among several individuals.
Let's not play politics. Politics is not good for something. Politics is a kissing division stamp. Politics is a making man and stop emit. Now all people all stop all legal groups for all.
Gore said leaders must put their differences aside from the national to provincial and district level. They must work together to improve service delivery and bring development into the province.
Politics, when the day comes for politics, play politics. But when we must remain as people in our own community, we must stay together and live together, eat together, appreciate government services that government give it to us.
The local MP also announced that several development projects in priority areas of health, education, transport infrastructure and primary production will be implemented, and that is for the people's benefits. Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
Youth of Kira local level government in Northern Province have called on the political leaders to invest in their education. They told MTV News most of them could not further their studies because there was a lack of political support.
With development slowly taking its shape in the Kira local level government, these youths, most of whom are great and school leavers, are rising up, calling on the political leaders to invest heavily more in building the human resource capacity. Ben Abisa, representing these youths, told MTV News that they were neglected by the successive governments.
Mipla igat need lo by go na sim training lo health weka na kam help mga papa blo mipla, but only failure em stop lo government na em hard to lo by mipla simol o by mipla funding mipla yet go na mipla sa look through lo government asking multa source of tell mipla na mipla get stop lo place.
What they have seen is that most health workers come and go. Many don't last in the area like this. This has really affected service delivery. And with the improvement of these critical areas of health and education, there is need for competency training. When given the opportunities, they return and serve in the community.
Through our community and our people, blow health services because no got one papa where embai look out the mipla na talk fight lo mipla lo kisimal services come inside. Mipla makim all lo by carry out heavy blow mi pla na sidal one time mi pla na carry out heavy blow mi pla.
Meantime, Oro Provincial Health Authority Project Coordinator Matthew Malas told MTV News they're looking into this matter to boost health services. Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
In the autonomous region of Bougainville, greater inclusion of women in the referendum process is important. This was discussed at the recent Advocacy Skills Workshop on Referendum and Beyond, held in Buka.
The Advocacy Skills Workshop aimed to help train seasoned advocates who have been integral to the Bougainville peace-building process. Young leaders learned how to effectively advocate with the government for women's rights and interest in the lead-up to Bougainville's referendum. Referendum Veterans Affairs and Peace Department is determined to involve women in all processes of preparing for, conducting and managing outcome of the Bougainville referendum. Under the Peaceful and Inclusive Elections and Referendum, USAID and IFES support Bougainville's referendum quest through the Bougainville Electoral Commissioner's Office and Referendum Department. Meantime, inclusion of men in women's advocacy work is critical. This demonstrates women's inclusion, human rights and empowerment also important to man. Electoral systems are strengthened to build local capacity to deliver sustainable solutions, and it provides technical assistance to electoral officials, empowering underrepresented to participate in the political process and applying field-based research to improve electoral cycle. Fabian Hakelitz, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News. Trukai Sports is next. We'll bring you the details after these messages.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Port Moresby Meloners have won the national softball titles in the men's division after defeating Bolominski. Elijah Lavette reports.
The crowd turned up in numbers to support their teams. In the women's finals, Port Moresby Gold reclaimed their standings as champions, beating Medang in the finals. This year's championships saw the inclusion of a visiting Canberra Giants and Manus team. Both teams have shown interest to bring more teams for next year's tournament.
Yeah, we have interest because we said we were coming up, and we picked up New South Wales player in Jaden Latch, and then we also picked up Queensland player in Ryan Merriman. So we've got the ACT boys, a couple of them are Australian juniors, and all under the age of 20, and playing against quite older boys here and stealing bases and being aggressive is different.
Our participation this year has stimulated interest, and definitely we will come back. But this time we will try and bring our women to participate as well.
After the men's grand final, trophies were presented to outstanding players of the tournament, including the winning teams. The following national softball titles are to be held next year during Easter in Port Moresby, with the hopes of more teams taking part. Elijah Lavette, National MTV Sports.
To the Rugby World Cup now, and Japan have caused one of the biggest upsets in the World Cup with a victory over two-time world champions, the Springboks, in the Rugby World Cup opening match, beating them 34-32. In a very entertaining match from the start, when both sides were desperate to open the World Cup campaign with a win, Japanese never let South Africa get too far ahead on the scoreboard. With a very small point difference, a late try to Japan gave them 2 points, described as the greatest victory in World Cup history. Labelled as one of the possible cup winners for this year, South Africa was stunned by a team expected to struggle to get out of a pool that includes Samoa and Scotland as well. And that ends Trukai Sports for this evening. I'll bring you the weather details for the next 24 hours when we return.
Trukai Sports.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours. First of all, in the southern regions, all major centers to expect fine weather. In the Moresby region, Ley and Wau, morning showers expected, mostly fine in Madang, showers and rain expected in Wewak and Vanimo. In the New Guinea Islands region, fine weather expected in Lorangau and Buka, mostly fine in Kokopo and Rabaul, fine and windy for Kimbe, and cloudy periods in Cavan. And in the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg expect fine weather with morning fog. And that's how we end today's bulletin, Sunday, the 20th of September 2015. On behalf of the EMTV News team, have a pleasant working week. Good night.